So I am with Senpai Nikolaj Lune
Yeah.
Jensen, who is a vice world champion in kata in Shin Kyokushin organization, one of the most impressive organization, one of the most global organization of Kyokushin in the world. And as Sean Valeri, he dropped. He came this weekend to give a seminar about kata, about his expertise to a couple of people here in France. So thank you, Senpai, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I will ask you a couple of questions about your career, but mainly also about kata because you're a master in kata, and many people have problems nowadays with kata. So that's something we should discuss. First question, we will talk more about your career and your beginnings in Kyokushin. How did you start Kyokushin? How did it happen? What made you enter the Kyokushin area?
I think the first time I entered a dojo was in Denmark, of course. I was 5 years old. And then I had some breaks and stuff, but since I was 5 years old, I had a connection to a dojo. And then I've just practiced ever since. So.
Did you enter by chance, or was it?
Yeah,
your
by chance. My
Oh.
parents just brought me there.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Nice. Parents have a purpose.
Yeah, I owe them now.
No, that's great. And what led you to be a kata champion? What have you had masters that trained you, that guided you to this point, or is it something really more of a personal will to come and to reach this level that you have today?
That's a good question. I think for me, the most important factor has been that kata has meant something for me. So emotionally, so I always wanted to practice it, and if you practice it, you'll become good at it. So, and then I've met a lot of good instructors, and of course my own instructors are very important for me. So it's a good combination, but the essence is that I have an emotional connection to kata.
Something that you really feel inside of you.
Yes.
And that's great because it's part of martial arts, and that will lead me to the next questions. Why do you believe that kata is an essential aspect of Kyokushin karate and martial arts in general?
I guess kata has at least 3 different purposes. One is technical. You have kata was made in essence to preserve some techniques and to preserve the system as a whole. So if you know the katas of a system, you have, you could say you have all the system in one. You can pass it on. And of course in the technical aspects you also have bunkai, so it's very applicable to situations if you know how to do it. Mm-hmm. Because in kata we do punch in the face, for example.
Exactly.
That was the technical part. Then you also have the physical part. In kata, you train balance, you train speed, you train strength, stability, whatever. And all these aspects you want in your life, both like normal life, but also as a fighter. So it's a good way to practice all of those alone. And lastly, there is also a spiritual aspect of kata. Mm-hmm. When we do kata, we practice concentration and mindfulness. And I think kata competitions really show that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good answer, really. And to go a bit further beyond, why, for those who might think that kata is outdated, that don't see the point, with all you've just told me, what would you say to them to really maybe in one sentence or more to say that it really has value, it really contains a value, because the beginners, sometimes even more advanced people, won't understand maybe not every aspect, but that kata has a purpose, and more than just dancing of some sort.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think it's a coincidence that many of the old masters, and also when you see fighters becoming more old, they tend to get a feeling for kata. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that says something in itself. And besides all the things I just mentioned, I think it's an integral part of karate, but of martial art in general. Because as we've talked about, it is an art.
It's an art.
It's an art form. If it wasn't, we wouldn't have any rules, for example. And so, if you take kata out of karate, you won't have karate anymore. Yeah.
So really, it's part of the essence. Either you will choose pure fighting. There are disciplines that do
Yeah.
fighting, but even in Muay Thai, for example, or some disciplines that do some shadow boxing that look
Yeah.
like
Yes.
kata in some sort. It's not that codified. It's not that that precise, but they will do moves that are still neat and sharp, and
Yes.
somehow it looks like kata. We just have gis and belts on, so people might. But really, yeah. So you would encourage, of course, people to wow. That was hard. You would encourage people to train kata, to keep training kata, and to really make it a part of their journey
Yes.
if they want to be in martial arts.
Yes. And then you'll have a friend for life, also, because you can practice kata whenever and wherever. You don't need a partner.
Also. Yeah, and again, we could come back to that question. What led you to be a kata champion that you are now? Because you told me that you had a passion for it, but what kind of training have you realized to get to this point that you are now?
Yeah, that is a good question. First of all, I think it's a training where you have to find the balance between never being satisfied.
Yeah.
Because if you're satisfied, you have blind spots, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But at the same time, it has to be fun, and you have to feel that you're always improving and always doing what you can. So I think training in that sweet spot there, where sometimes I feel like I need to push more, sometimes I need to relax more. That has been very good for me, at least. Yeah.
So you would advise people that want to go in competition, it can also apply to fighting, to really not lose, to keep in focus that it has to be fun, it has to be somehow enjoyable and not only painful, and really have this difficult aspect, this sacrifice aspect. Dimitrov actually told me that when I asked him, you did sacrifice a lot, but he said that he didn't even consider it sacrifice. He would say the same thing about kata.
Yes, of course, you get so much more out of it than what you put into it. Yes, so I think that would be my answer. But as you say, it has to be joyful, because if you put on your doki or your training suit or whatever, and you feel a joy putting it on, you'll put it on every day. And if you put it on every day, chances are you'll get better.
Yeah. Definitely. And how about your training? How does your training differ from kumite training? Your kata training is probably different from kumite training. We had the chance to see today some exercise that I never saw, and I wouldn't never have thought of. Really, this is a specific exercise, because knowing the kata now is not enough. We all know the basic exercise for kumite. Maybe some of the people who train for hard kumite, even for high level kumite, don't have any more secrets except techniques. But here we have a whole new level field, a whole new field of things that you could apply to step up the game in kata. So how do you balance kumite and kata as a Kyokushin practitioner?
I think for me the main difference between the two kinds of trainings are what they need of me. So kumite needs a lot of conditioning, like because you can go on. Tomorrow we have to fight 40 fights of 1.5 minutes, you know. So you need good conditioning. Kata, you have 2.5 minutes to give it everything, and you know that the time stops there. So conditioning is less important, but as we've practiced today, mobility and stability are some of the most central aspects that I don't think many fighters incorporate.
Yeah. At least not in this fashion, because it's a totally different point of view when
Yes.
training for kata. You can train balance for competition, but only to kick, but not to be maybe as precise, as neat that you would need to be in kata.
Yeah, so
Great. Is there a moment that really marked you in your career as a kata competitor? A moment, maybe a victory, maybe a loss, maybe something you were proud of, maybe something you were disappointed, something that told you, I want to keep going, even if it's something that you could consider negative at first.
I think I had many moments actually that mean a lot to me. Yeah, but I have a positive moment, maybe if I can share that, which was of course the European Championship in '23,
That's it.
where I happened to win, but I won. It was in Sweden, so my family and my friends were there, and being able to perform at that level that day with my family looking and my friends being there, and it felt as though I could give them something back for all the support that they've given me. That was special to me because it was emotional for everyone, and I think that moment sticks to me.
So really, you have your family and your relatives rooting for you, supporting you in your
Yes.
career, and that's I think that's something amazing. Shem, Valerie said exactly the same, and maybe now I can realize that maybe as the viewers will that if you want to go high level, it's important to have support, to have people rooting for you even in difficulty, because we know a champion's life is not built with 2 trainings a week, I guess.
No.
So definitely it's really great having people behind your back. Having your back even in tough moments, I guess there are tough moments in your career. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's great. Um, and maybe you talked about focus. Training kata is something special that only people that will train kata will know, because training fight is easy. Training fight is easy when people see it. They see people almost like beating each other in some sort. But training kata, only people that do kata maybe realize what it is, and what has kata brought you. What does kata bring you in your daily life, in your personal life?
Yeah, also a good question. I think the most essential is a sort of mindful tuning into what's going on within me. Because if I go to the dojo and sometimes I do a kata and then suddenly I realize I do it too fast. And I say, why is it too fast? Why can I not slow down? And then I realize maybe it's because I'm tired or stressed or whatever. And sometimes I just don't have power in my katas. Maybe I need to sleep more, or maybe I need to eat differently. So maybe I'm angry sometimes that it goes way too fast. So kata is like, for me, I always tune into myself, and they are kind of like a mirror for me. I hope it makes sense, but
Somehow it does. It's really like an open window on yourself
yes.
to realize what is good maybe on the outside of the dojo, and
Yes.
what isn't at a certain moment.
Exactly.
So definitely, yeah, it's great perspective. Thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give to people who practice kata nowadays, whether it is beginners or people maybe who would like to start martial arts? What advice to perform in kata, to really learn basic and staying motivated and consistent in the practice? What advice would you give to these beginners or people?
Make sure you enjoy it. Yeah, that's the most essential thing. You don't have to enjoy every training. I don't enjoy every training, but you have to enjoy the overall journey. I think that's very important, because otherwise, no matter what you win, trust me, um, it doesn't mean anything if you did it while not being happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on a more uh, on a different perspective, do you think that many people are sometimes bored by kata or technique because they don't comprehend it, or the people maybe the people they teach to, who teach them, kata, maybe don't explain them enough why they do it. It could result in being bored and frustrated by not knowing why you do that, especially if you do it a lot more than dojos, because your sensei might be older, or your sensei might be into this for a certain period because of grading, etc. Do you think there can be frustration because of that?
Yes, I mean, back in the days, you practice maybe 2-3 katas for your whole life.
Yeah.
So you knew them, you knew what every movement meant. You had delved into all the whys of what you did. And nowadays we know 25 katas, and we practice them on and on and on and on, you know. And I think that is killing kata.
Yeah.
I don't care how many katas you can do in 2 hours. I care if you can do one mindful kata. So I think if we...
Mindful, this is
This
a
is
powerful word for
Yeah.
describing how kata should be.
Exactly. I think if we teach people to do kata mindful, in a mindful state of mind, they'll also see the benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything you would like to add, whether it is for your personal career, the evolution of Kyokushin? Because I often like to talk to the viewers of the evolution of Kyokushin, not only in Kumite, but I guess in kata. We, like you said, it's a codex that we try to keep as pure as possible for it to pass on, to never, I guess it can be improved, it can evolve, but never be satisfied of just knowing it and not. So really, for the evolution of Kyokushin, maybe how would you reconcile kata and the evolution of Kyokushin, maybe for young people who haven't even started yet?
I think also because we now had the first world championship in Shinkokushin kata, I think kata is only now just beginning to become very big in the karate world. Yeah. So I think a lot more people, I can feel that when I go on camps with people and seminars and teach. The fire has been ignited.
Yeah.
And I hope a lot of people, also young people, will delve into kata and get to know a lot of things and come to me and teach me then.
But I guess that's also passion talking. That's like I said, maybe someone showing kata with not really being present, like you said, present being important. But when you show presence, people listen to you, and you could almost show them anything.
Exactly.
So-
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Great.
So-
Anything else you want to add, maybe for the viewers?
No.
Word
Be
of the end.
mindful, have fun, take care of those around you. Should be fine.
Os Senpai, thank you for the interview, and we still have training tomorrow, so we need to sleep and we need to go eat. So Os, see you next time, guys. Os Senpai, thank you very much.
Thank you so much
It was
for
very
having me.
interesting for me to